why don't you each sort of introduce yourselves quickly, and then we'll sort of go into the panel.
So, good evening. I'm Dave Frankland. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Selligent. Selligent, for those of you who don't know it, is a European-based campaign management provider. We merged two companies. You might know StrongView, or what was previously StrongMail, based out in Redwood City. About 18 months ago, we merged with Selligent, which is a Belgian-based, broader company. So we do on your own site personalization, mobile, email, social, a whole bunch of different channels, all based on a single universal profile. From a personal point of view, I've been at Selligent or Selligent plus StrongView 2 years. Prior to that, I was at Forrester for about 7 years, and prior to that was at DoubleClick. So hearing all of your ad woes brought back the same conversation from 10, 15 years ago that we were having back then, unfortunately.
All right.
David Shim. I'm the founder and CEO of Placed, and what we do is really we measure what people do in the physical world, and we intersect that with advertising. So we don't sell any media. We work with great partners like MadTech, where we actually measure the effectiveness of media and driving someone into the store. We've got about 250 plus partners. We work with about 500 plus advertisers. So really, we are the market share leader when it comes to offline attribution, when it comes to store visits. So for us, it's really about being that independent third party, just like you've seen, and you've talked a little bit about this in terms of being that measurement solution, being that verification service where you're not selling media, but you're actually just saying, did it work or did it not work? That's an important piece for us. And then from a Place perspective, I think, what's the best way to say it? I think we want to continue to kind of push into kind of the attribution and also go into things like television, out of home, search. All those things are things that we want to deliver from an omni-channel perspective, where we're seeing the market saying, that's great that you can do digital, but what else can you do? And I think connected TV is kind of the same thing, to say, we want more. We want our partners to actually do more, and I think that's the direction that we're going at the end of the day. And from a data set perspective, just at a high level, 152 million devices that we see on a monthly basis and about 140 billion lat longs.
Hi, everyone. Is this working? Yes. Hi. Hi, guys. I'm Lisa Matheson, and I lead media planning and buying at Walgreens. Yes, retail is a tough category right now.
But Walgreens is doing well, just for the record.
We're doing great. You should see our latest earnings report. It's amazing. I lead all of media planning and buying for Walgreens, and that means all cross-channel, from digital to traditional. TV is not dead yet. I disagree with that, but we'll get into that probably a little bit later. But I've been really championing and leading our really the activation of our first-party data. So if you're a Balance Rewards member at Walgreens, really leveraging all of our loyalty data and building up our programmatic buying capability, and leading that effort and really activating all of our first-party data. So yes, digital is becoming much more important in our mix, and I've been leading really the transformation of our media mix at Walgreens. I started there about 4 years ago, but I have spent about 10 years on the agency side, so I know that world well, and I spent a few years on the publisher side, so I know that world well. So it's really fun to see it from all sides of the table, and there's definitely a lot going on.
I'm waiting the beat.
There you go.
Beat before the mic kicks. I'm Woody Meacham. I'm a group director of digital strategy at OMD here in Chicago, so just up the street. Been there about 8 years. What I always like to tell people is I've been doing digital since 1993. And so when you see people like in my office right now, I'll go, when were you born? There's been a few of those people now. So I've been everywhere from, I started in email marketing actually back then, but I've been a developer, DBA, all the way up to digital strategy. So I've kind of been having my fingers in this thing for a long time.
Fantastic. So we've got a great mix, agency, clients direct, and a couple of people that are providing services in the space. So I think it's going to be a good conversation. So, all right, so let's start with the provocative one, changes on Capitol Hill. We talked about net neutrality. Let's not go there. Another thing that's been happening on Capitol Hill is about data and privacy and the freedom of internet service providers to start selling the data that they see, right? So if you're using Verizon, Comcast, Time Warner, whomever, Cox at home, they see every single click you do and all of the bits, and they know exactly where you go, and at the moment they're prohibited from selling that data. But it looks like they probably will become, that will probably be available to us. Good thing, bad thing? What do we think about that, panelists?
I think it's overblown. So part of it is, so part of the reason why I always like to throw out, any programmers out here?
What do you
Come
mean?
on. Gotta give me
Programmers
one
and
coder
soft,
in this.
no coders, yeah, no coders.
No, because normally
They're at
what
home
it
doing
comes
the work.
down to, right? Because a lot of what this is cookie level data. Is
Yep.
a lot of what they're talking about. You're talking about an HTTP transaction that is going across the call. Google, Facebook, those people where you have a persistent identity, they're called walled gardens for a reason. That data that knows that it's you or it's you, it's not really there. It's inferred data. So these people that are out there right now going, I'm going to buy that congressman's personal data, they're not going to be able to do that. The best that these companies are going to do is sell you blocks of data that is inferred information. So part of it, I think, is a little bit of hype, but I think it's warranted hype because you still, now if I took my business hat off and I'm sitting in my house and going, wait a minute, you're tracking my kid? Different animal. You know, that, lock it down, I don't want any of that stuff. But a lot of this data is already out there, and that's one of the reasons why AT&T got their hand slapped a few years ago when they had AT&T AdWorks, because they were sharing some of that data without somebody opting in for it. So that's why that went away. So surface level, I think it's a little bit of hype, but still be cautious on it.
Do you think, you or anyone else, do you think that it's going to, that the access to that data, because you have to assume that it will be sold, right? So if it's going to be used.
Being sold now.
Yeah. Is it going to make advertising better, or are we not really going to notice the difference?
Do you guys get tracked right now? When you're on Gmail? Do you get tracked right now?
I think it's a uniform, yes.
In theory, it should make it better.
Yeah.
For us, meaning that part you're about the 50% isn't hitting the targeted audience.
Yeah.
This opted-in data is actually, part of it is the value exchange. You're getting the right message now. So will it make everything better? No. But the way I like to say it is, it's a dirty pair of glasses. Would you rather wear no glasses or a dirty pair of glasses? Well, you've got to put your glasses on, I thought.
They're quite dirty, actually. Yeah.
But it's just going to help us see a little bit better so that then our money is spent. We know we're hitting the right person.
It's true. I can read. It's very good.
The other thing I would say, if you take a slightly different topic but related, is in Europe, the new laws over there will soon follow suit over here, I think. I'm sure California will lead the way, and then the rest of us are going to be forced to comply. It's usually the way it goes, right? But just access to data, who owns your, do you as an individual own your data? For a long time we've sort of said if you're not paying for something, you are the product. But to Woody's point, it was kind of anonymized and aggregated. Now in Europe, you have to be able to show that you can audit down to the individual level, what data you have, et cetera. And it's just going to go more and more in that direction of sort of personal identity management and our own ownership of our own data. And I think that's going to make that topic go away to a certain extent.
Yeah, because I could find, sorry. Oh,
Yeah, Woody, you're all over.
So
back down.
I would say, from Woody's point, to give Woody a little bit more call out, I think it's going to be a walled garden. I don't think someone's going to sell segments to say, here's a cookie that here's all the websites they visited. That's never going to happen, or that's not going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years, because that crosses the line. If I said to anybody in here, let me see all the websites that you went to, and I'm going to anonymize it, but I'm going to put it into a cookie, I think everyone here would be up in arms to say, no, that's not okay. But what's going to happen is in the walled gardens, Facebook sees everything, Google sees everything that you do within the walled garden, and you see Verizon actually buying, Millennial, they bought AOL, they're buying Yahoo. It's that walled garden where they can use that within their own ecosystem. And I think if you wanted to kind of take a playbook of who's done it really well, it's Amazon. Like Amazon has their own DSP, they've got their own purchase data, and the Ad Exchange report that just came out, they're one of the biggest DSPs out there that you've never heard of. So I think those things combined, it's going to be used, it's going to be within the walled garden, but it's not going to be, I'm going to sell, Lisa a cookie that says, hey, here's someone who bought X pharmaceutical drug, or they went to a pharmaceutical website.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the important question there, though, is that you're raising is, what is the end game? And the end game is that for, certain categories, and certainly retail is in one of those categories where it's challenging and every customer counts, you want to be able to personalize your advertising message to that customer. You want to be able, in order to help support their need or find that solution or sell them a product, right? So it is sort of a race to the bottom in the sense that everybody's competing for every single customer out there, and whatever tool is available or whatever data point is available to help them find that person, sell them that product, deliver on that need. is going to be really, really important. So yes, I think they are, kind of dirty glasses right now, but I think, if you look at the trend line of data and the role that data is playing in the marketing ecosystem and certainly in advertising, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer by the day, and somebody will crack it. I mean, this is a big business, data right now, and data science and programmatic buying. And so, yes, I think there's been a lot of crap in data, but it's going to get clearer and clearer and clearer. And I think, the core question to ask, hopefully those questions are going to be asked on all sides, is what's the end game? And what's the right level of data to share? What's the right level of data to buy? What's the right level of data to own? What's the right level of data to activate against? Certainly at Walgreens, we have a stopping point, and that is our customers, protecting our customers' health and privacy information. We cannot cross a line, and we set the line way, way back so that we're nowhere even near, compromising our customers' health information, protecting their privacy. Customers, our company is built on the backbone of trust. And so that's, I think, what, advertisers will grapple with and probably grapple with today, is how do you balance that level of trust with finding the right customers to sell.
Questions from the audience? Any questions about this topic from the audience? Yes, we do.
We do. So we have.
Oh, this is a question from Twitter.
This is a question from Twitter.
All right, so we're good. The bottle of wine's working.
Yeah, the question from the panel is: do you believe that blocking the broadband privacy regulations affects minorities more so than other consumers?
Oh.
Read that one more time. I need more time to think about it.
Absolutely. I'll slow down a little.
Rephrase that.
Do you believe that blocking the broadband privacy regulations affects minorities more so than other consumers?
Blocking?
Blocking it, so blocking.
Do you believe that blocking the broadband privacy regulations?
So, I mean, you never mind thinking about it blocking, but changes in the privacy regulations, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, do they affect minorities more than other groups?
No. This is actually, I feel, one of the places where it affects everyone equally. Except for if somebody is putting if Comcast is going to put a slower head end in a region where they don't feel they're going to sell as much. I'm grasping at straws.
No. So,
but
even
then,
then,
I don't see it in that way.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think it is.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't have access, they don't have access.
Yeah. So.
So I would
So,
say
but
more.
from that point of view, if they don't have access, then this is better for
Right.
minorities,
Yeah,
because they aren't tracked. So.
I think it's more. I would say it's more.
Though I don't think
probably-
that's a trade I would make.
But I would think it's more regionally based than
Yeah.
it is ethnically based.
Yeah.
Because my parents who live in the middle of Michigan, I had to buy them satellite because there's no one was ever going to run cable to them.
Yeah. I think that's right. One more.
How will the adoption of smart hubs like Amazon Echo and the data you can collect affect marketing?
Creepy.
I think it's
Bigly.
a huge opportunity. I mean, I'm particularly fascinated by AI right now, and Alexa and Google Home and all of that good stuff. I mean, I think from a retail perspective, or from a customer perspective in shopping. I mean, how cool is it to command Alexa to go find you those new pair of shoes?
Well, just to go to the other side of that, so
Yeah.
you don't think the fact that you've asked Alexa to do these things and that data is then collected and Amazon knows all of the things, you're fine with it?
As long as Alexa chooses Walgreens, that's fine by me. Because we're close by.
Touche.
No, but honestly though, that is somebody had mentioned take an Alexa and show it to somebody in 1962 who was creeped out that the government was spying on them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because even though all these systems are saying they're not storing that data, there's some fun dark web craziness if you ever want to look into it, where, just imagine, I'm being a little bit fun here, but if somebody could hack into one of those things, I'm going to make a movie. Hashtag copyright, Woody's going to make the movie. I don't want anybody taking it. But where somebody actually is listening into your device, it's the new, where are they calling from? They're in the house kind of thing.
Right.
It creeps me out. Oh, the microwaves, be careful. Yeah, exactly, the cameras and the microwaves, you're right.
Yes. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And
It's worth mentioning, though. I mean, I think in all of these things, there's a trade-off, right? So you're giving up some personal information, some data, some privacy, whatever else it is, and you're getting something in return. I think what's really clear when you're using Alexa or any of the above is there's some utility and value there.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging us to be lazy as hell and all the rest of it, because that's what we can now do. But we're getting some value. I think a lot of the other times we're giving up data, we don't see the value we're getting.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'll just double down on it by saying the trend is clearly towards consumers of all types accepting additional services and giving up privacy.
Absolutely.
That is the clear trend.
That's where you see it in the insurance agency now with the telematics. Put this widget in your car and your rates will go down.
Yeah.
You know, even though they know now that you drive 80 miles an hour all the time.
Your rates might go up, right? Yeah.
So Lisa, you can go first, and then one of you can arm wrestle because I can't go through, or we'll be all night.
So we really wall off, any pharmacy transaction information. That is, when you get into, it's all those HIPAA documents you sign, right? When you go to the doctor for the first time, or you're getting a test done, or what have you. They're telling you basically data is being collected, but they're not going to do anything with it. And that is an insurance policy between you and that provider. Back to the Capitol Hill example, I got to know our lawyers at our privacy office very quickly. They're really nice people. But, they were, I was very impressed. I was coming in, as the kind of the media geek, the new girl wanting to turn on all of our first party data, and I really was expecting a no. And they were so informed about the latest laws, the latest debates in Washington around data usage. And we really sat down and talked together about where does that line exist. And we, again, a company like ours, the backbone of our company is built on customer and patient trust. And we can't get anywhere near violating that. We don't want to. That's our bread and butter, and that's really what our company is built upon. And so we don't use any pharmacy transaction data. We won't. What we want to do is support customers in finding a solution, in finding a remedy for their cold, finding a small gift at the holidays, things like that. Signing up for a loyalty program where maybe they've lapsed or they're not at all. Shopping our beauty aisles, making sure that we're providing them with great looks. So, that's really how we're utilizing that data, and that's where, kind of our zone of support is. And I really do think about it, and we strategize. We built a strategy around that is solution oriented. It is back to utility. As Dave was saying, we want to make sure we are providing utility as service that is in line with our core principles as a company.
Yeah. At a risk of giving a really extreme version of that, we see that personal health information, personal financial information, income, that kind of stuff, absolutely not. Everything else, pretty much, I'm sure there's something I've forgotten, but everything else, it'll all be public.
But we've all been victims, of even on the stuff that, may not be as super personal as your health information. We've all been victims of shopping. Like for instance, I'm redecorating my dining room, right? And I'm shopping for all of these different, colors and wall sconces and things like that. I've made my purchase. I made my purchase 3 weeks ago. I am still seeing advertising for, what about this wall sconce? What about that one? And now it's annoying, So before, it was a reminder, a friendly reminder. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go back and look at that. And now it's just annoying. So I can tell that the data loop is not closed on that end. And that's a problem. You've got to make sure that your full end-to-end experience when using data is supporting the ultimate customer experience you want to drive.
And with that data set too, I think it's transparency, especially when it's a new data set that people haven't seen before. You need to get the opt-in, you need to get the double opt-in. I think there's been people that have gotten in trouble in the last year in terms of how they got the data. And because it wasn't clear, because it was hidden in the terms of service, they've had to kind of step back and say, this wasn't the right approach. Now we're going to change our terms of service. We're going to push new notifications out. So you want to be, especially when it's a new technology or a new type of measurement or data, you want to be as transparent as possible. And I think Placed is a good example where 6 years ago, we measure location data. And 6 years ago, people were like, no one's going to give you any location data. You're really telling me they're going to install an app and let you measure where they go in the physical world 24/7? And with our investors that we talked with, or the investors that we talked with, they were like, there's no way. We like the idea. The end product is good, but we don't think people are going to do it. And today, we've got 150 million, but we actually have 2.5 million that's double opt-in. So we have 1 in every 100 adults that have actually said, I'm okay with Placed, measuring where I go in the physical world. And that was something where it took a slow roll to go in there and say, like, let's be transparent, let's make it the right way. But now that we have that, it's huge at the end of the day to go in and say, here's our base model, here's the people that we have, they've double opted in. And I think when we work with clients, a couple folks up here, is like, to tell that story that you have it in the right way is important, because you don't want to get the backlash where you're the first one to do, let's say this ISP stuff where they see the websites. If you're the first one to, I would not want to be the first one. I would want to be like the 4th or 5th one where it's like someone else got in trouble for it and like, that's good and people are used to it. And they set the rules.
All right.
Because I think cookies are the same way.
Yeah. So let's talk about the changing nature of retail, right? Lisa, how's it going?
It's going great. It's going so great. No, I mean, I think every retailer is in the same boat right now, and no one is immune to it. Shopping behaviors are changing, and there are big players in the market that are those change agents, like Amazon. And so, for Walgreens, what I usually say is, the definition of convenience has shifted on us. We are a convenient location. We are convenient in terms of proximity, but we are not, in your kitchen. Well, we are not in your bathroom where you can push a button or, pull us up on your mobile phone and, order products from the couch. We do have those capabilities. We certainly have a mobile app, but that's not really the nature of our business as a destination. We really support those sort of last minute, fill-in needs, convenient needs, and when the definition of convenience changes, it's tough, and you've got to figure out how to stay relevant in those environments, and I think that's what all of the retailers are doing. I mean, I think those stats on shopping malls and retailers were really interesting, and that's certainly, eye-opening for everyone, and so I think a lot of retailers are in the mode of reinvention, and really shifting and making sure you're shoring up your digital products. I think Walgreens certainly was one of the first to really provide mobile app services to customers, and we targeted, really back of store, our pharmacy customers, and refill by scan. I mean, it was a huge innovation for us. We really led the pack on making it really convenient for customers to refill their prescriptions. We're doing the same thing in photo right now. We're making it incredibly convenient to upload your photos, print it on any size or canvas that you want, and it's ready for you, within the same day, within the hour. So it's really important, I think, that retailers continue to evolve. And I think, while it can be a little concerning, especially when you see the stats like that, I think it's an incredibly exciting time because I think for customers like all of us, it's just going to get more and more convenient. And certainly, I think it's going to change the way, we continue to shop and consume products. But I don't think it eliminates the need for human touch or human interaction. We all need that. It's a human instinct. And so certainly, pharmacy being such high touch in the back of the store, at the pharmacy counter with your pharmacist is so important. And we know we will continue to need that, and customers will continue to need that. So it's an exciting time.
And you're seeing like the digital people so everything that I'm wearing right now is digitally purchased, but they've actually opened up storefronts. So Jack Irwin with shoes, they actually have storefronts in New York, other markets. Bonobos, they've actually set up shops where Gaps have closed, where these retailers have closed, and they've actually come in and said, we will only take people that do an appointment on the website to come in, and we will have someone that will actually walk you through the process, let you try different clothes, really give you a stylist. So that's changed. So I think across the board, even like Warby Parker, et cetera, the digital players are coming in and they're saying that the touch matters, like actually having that human touch, actually having a source to say, I want to look at this product. It's the big difference there is like, you don't need it today. It's really that delayed gratification, but you're able to touch, you're able to feel, and look at those types of products. And I think you're going to see more and more like Amazon. I'm from Seattle. They've got 2 grocery stores right now that they've opened where it's only for Amazon employees, where you can walk in, recognizes that you have Prime on your phone, pick whatever you want, you leave, and it automatically charges you. They're doing drive-through grocery stores for Amazon Fresh right now, where they actually have grocery stores where it's a Barnes & Noble that went out of business, and they actually built a grocery store around it, and they've went in and said, like, hey, it's a grocery store. If you're Prime, you can come in, pick up your groceries, or you can go through the drive-through. So I don't think retail is dying. It's just a shift. You see shifts occur in market, just like websites you advertised on 10 years ago. A lot of those don't exist anymore, and I think it's the same thing.
And so much of that I think comes back to it's all about experience, right? So the customer experience. Take Walgreens as a great example. Walgreens is a brand that's been around for how many years, but the experience in a Walgreens store today is totally different to what it was 5, 10 years ago.
Certainly 100 years ago.
Certainly, right. I mean, certainly since they started. But I mean, I went into a Walgreens in San Francisco last summer and almost fell over. I didn't know where I was, kind of thing, and was willing to buy lunch at Walgreens and stuff like that. It just didn't make sense. But so many of those brands you just mentioned, the brands that are surviving. I mean, retail grew 4% last year.
Yep.
So it's far from dying. It's just changing.
Yep.
The other thing we haven't talked about and wasn't in your presentation that's somewhat relevant is the whole subscription economy side of retail too, right? So you mentioned a bunch of different brands. There's others playing in sort of changing the game as well by you subscribing to something. You don't even know what you're getting until it arrives, and then you decide whether you keep it or not, et cetera. And so to both Lisa and David's points, it's just changed. And it's on us to change with it and to get our clients ahead of it.
Yep.
But it's far from dying.
But it's an exciting time for brands. I mean, you look at Target, and what they're doing. They're bringing brands, sort of as a boutique, as that showroom, that James talked about, in his presentation, into the stores. And so, I am actually fascinated right now with the Amazon bookstores. First of all, it really touched that part of me of knowing what bookstores were and how fun they could be. But it also is bringing back that idea of curated content. And knowing and seeing and be able to physically touch those books and understand and talk to somebody about why that book is great is so important. So it's that human touch element that I think is never going to go away. It might evolve as technology evolves or retailers kind of come and go, but it's human touch that I think is still the common thread throughout all of the changes.
Okay. Questions on that topic? Yes, in the back over there. Meaning that the source could not be a person? The source could be a computer. Right. Anyone want to take a crack at that?
Lisa can answer, but we did a study with a very large publisher, like top 5 in the U.S., and they wanted to understand what's the impact on mobile and searching on mobile to actually see, does that change the behaviors once you're in the store? And the number one thing that people wanted to do when they were at a electronics retailer was not talk to a customer service rep, not talk to a brand rep. They said, I'm going to use my smartphone and I'm going to search and I'm going to look it up. And then I can just take it away. So it was a bit of a shocker because they're like, it was like number 4, like talking to a rep in the store. It was just more like, hey, here are the products that are available.
I think you still. I think that's a great question, and to be honest with you, I don't think that there's a silver bullet answer. I think it's really it could be dated forever. But I don't know. I think that there's a human instinct in wanting to be connected to other people and their ideas and their reassurance, perhaps. So when you think about curation, the idea of curation, you're really getting the power of word of mouth, right? Or I think when you do go to your mobile app, you're looking for value. It's more of a utility. You're looking, well, am I getting the best price? Am I getting the best deal? But what did other people say? Did a lot of people rate that one as high, or are there mixed reviews? It suddenly influences your decision. And so while I certainly don't think you need a human being in front of you to help you make that decision, I think you look to other humans in some way, whether through technology or somebody in front of you to help influence your decision. You want to know, you want to feel good about the decision that you're making, and I think there are lots of inputs to that.
So much of it comes back to expectation too. I think what you expect in one store versus another. If you look at a customer experience index, Costco typically does really well in CX indexes. Not somewhere you go looking for human touch, right? Well, certainly don't want a human touch when I'm in Costco, right? Or Walmart, the employee that gets fired for helping you, sort of thing, right? So you go in there with such low expectation. It's not why you're going for other reasons. So I think there's probably, you go to Tiffany and somebody doesn't help you, you're walking out, right? So it probably varies greatly depending on the retail experience you're looking for, and it's up to the brand to understand what the relationship they're trying to build is and what the right experience is, and then building around that.
I think that's an excellent point. It's about it's about how personal the decision is to you. How big are the stakes? How personal is it? I think that greatly influences that. I think that's great.
Any other questions on this topic? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I'm going to keep moving us along because we've already been up here for 35 minutes. Changing role of the agency. I got to go to you, Woody.
Agencies are great. What are you doing? So
You saw. So I'll set it up a little bit more for you, just so you don't.
Thank you, because otherwise I could.
Because clearly you need the help. Yeah, clearly. You saw the P&G comment that agencies. Basically, he's saying agencies are not being helpful, and we see agency palooza happening all the time. Brands changing agencies all the time, and a sort of a lack of trust, a breakdown in trust between agencies and brands that certainly was less prevalent before. And then we see also things like clients deciding to buy media by themselves. So they'll go to Criteo and buy media instead of asking the agency to buy all that media for them, for example. Lots of things changing in agency land.
So I'm going to hit the last part first. Is just because you go to buy Criteo direct does not mean you're buying media. That just means you're going to Criteo to buy your media. So where I've seen this evolve, we talked about this backstage, was I was in their early ages. The agency I worked at, we did email. Well, that was a skill set that the clients learned that then they just needed a tool to execute. When it comes to programmatic and things like that, these people aren't traders. And even though the one slide you had where the person's head goes away and there's no head over here, there's still an art to the science. And what we've become more of is, I've always used the term marketer technologist because it sounds cool. But you've got to know the technology, and what agencies are becoming are more technology companies. The stat you showed for programmatic buying, that's what we do. I mean, a lot of what we're doing is programmatic buying, but it's not all RTB buying. Programmatic now is private marketplace deals, it's data deals, it's programmatic guaranteed deals, it's things like that, where then we can put the measures into place, because then I'm the rooster watching my hen house. I'm not the fox watching somebody else's hen house. So the reporting that's coming back, that's my reporting. That's my guy Charlie, who sits 3 seats away from me. Okay?
Yeah.
That is, our fraud, that is IAS or moat. We have standards that we use, and the problem that comes down to your earlier thing about, which I think we're going to hit on a little bit, the arbitrage component of it.
We can combine it here.
Okay. Is if I tell you this is the system I'm going to use as my source of record, but you're using a different source of record for what that fraud looks like, well then we're going to get stuck. And I do agree that the DSPs shouldn't pay that person. But a lot of it has become much more of a conversation of, we agree on a tech stack, we agree on a set of principles, and then we go into market with that. And so what that allows us to do then is have flexibility to swap out tech stack. And so that's why I'm saying, I don't look at ComScore anymore. I don't care what the top visited site by an 18 by 24 woman is.
Yeah.
Because I'll find them.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of where do you draw the line with data is my data is my data. Or I will come to you and set up a second party data where I want to take your first party data, anonymize it, use it as second party data. So it's just the conversations I have with people are totally different. I come into somebody, I meet with a vendor, and I'll say, you are either inventory, data, or content. How do you want to work? Like, oh, well, I'll give you value-added impressions. I don't want value-added impressions. I will pay for them if they're good. So it's just, what I'm getting at is it's evolved. Data science. Guys, jump in anytime or I'll keep going.
You'd have to take a
Is-
breath.
It's the Woody Show.
What the roles have changed. So our planners now have to be able to talk data. They have to be able to talk programmatic. You're not talking a traditional 70 slide, and we're going to buy this network, and we're going to buy that network. We don't talk that way anymore. So the data scientists have really come in. I don't want to get that because we're talking.
But I think you're touching on the gap. You know, that last point you were making. I mean, I think from a client perspective, certainly, you know, having lived on the agency side, it was fun, sure, to be able to answer all those questions for clients across all those different channels. And now, you know, agency folks can't. You know, they've got to turn to their data scientist or what would you call them, marketing technologists?
What we call
Yeah.
That's me.
You know, to somebody else to answer those questions, and you know, or they can't answer the question, and that right now I think we're sort of living in this gap state, and I think that's why you're seeing, if you're really paying attention to sort of the marketing ecosystem, you're seeing the rise of consultants. You know, Accenture is coming out and beating down, you know, advertiser doors and saying, you know, we can help you fill this gap. You're seeing, you know, independent, you know, kind of agency style shops. You know, I don't know if any of you are from Starcom or Leo Burnett, but certainly, all right, there you go. But you know, look at you know, I having been a Starcommer at one point, you know, Leo, you know, look at Leo Burnett. Look at who's at the head of Leo Burnett right now, Andrew Swindon. He's got a great story, right? Like he is living proof of how broken the agency model is, and he's trying to build something new and bring things together so that those skill sets are fully embedded in all areas of the funnel, you know, and he's building it from the creative side, and I think it's fascinating to see, but certainly we're going through, you know, talk about change, like this is certainly a big time of change for the agency industry.
This panel brought to you by Leo Burnett. The
Well, then I got to go.
yeah. So you said something a little earlier, which I sort of found interesting, and you both touched on it. And I just want to double click on it a little bit, which is that you came from an email thing that was an agency, and it went sort of to the client side. We've had partners approach us that do email and said, "Can you help us sell to agencies?" We have a big agency sales team. We've talked to most of our agency clients, and that we can't get them to buy email products. We know it doesn't seem to compute. But it's a big part of the marketing stack. So why?
Because Dave has done a very good job selling into clients.
We actually, so we do have agency clients, and actually, Walker, who's here with me, is actually his entire job is focused on agencies. So we have a team focused on selling to agencies.
So there I am wrong again.
So there you are wrong again. What I'd say is that, so I'd sort of piggyback a little on what was just said in terms of how the agencies have changed. If you look at, so go out of the ad tech world and into the MarTech world for a second. If you go back 5, 6, 7 years ago, you had the big database providers like Axiom and Epsilon and those guys. And then you had direct marketing agencies, and they were the two worlds.
Yep.
And now mentioning Accenture, IBM, those guys, they're playing in this space. You know, there's so many different entities coming from different heritages, but now focusing on the same thing. And that's just trying to reach the consumer. And so all of these things are converging. Email is relevant in two ways, I think, for agencies. One is it's a moneymaker. It's a proven channel that delivers for clients.
Yep.
Two, the email address is often becoming the key.
Yep.
Is right. So by key, we mean it's what you tie somebody's identity with.
Yep.
So even if you're not delivering to an email through the email channel, getting your hands on that email file can be invaluable for everything else you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And if you want to know more, Walker knows it, I don't.
You saw me sort of stake a claim that, you know, I really don't like the fact that some of my dollars are going to fund some of these things. I think it's a real problem. You know, and, you know, that's an easy statement to say. But, you know, what are each of you guys doing in this area. You say you are integrated with, and you listed 3 or 4.
IAS and Moat. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a Moat mainly for video, IAS for display, but it was just, that's what we've determined to be the best solution. And then everybody uses it. So then when we're comparing apples to apples in it, and then we've had cases where our fraud is 0.05.
Right.
But if you look at the number of impressions, it's still a lot of dollars. I'm with you. I'd love to be able to crush these guys.
Yeah.
But you're right. We've got to be able to move that, if we can cut the head of the snake off. I know that's not the right analogy,
But yeah, it's
stop
just
the flow of dollars that way. That's where it's going to be. And
Yeah.
that was a crappy analogy. I'm sorry, you guys. Usually better.
any other questions?
Well, I mean, I think Mark Pritchard's, message is thoughtful, and that is, we're better together. If we band together and live by sort of the same core principles in this space, then it will be a better industry. And so I fundamentally agree with what he's preaching. From a Walgreens perspective, from a client perspective, it's definitely at the top of my list. I now send way too many emails to our executive leadership team, to my corporate communications team, who's always worried that they're going to get the press reaching out because we're ending up in or customers reaching out. We get a lot of customer feedback about our ads and what they're sitting next to, and so brand safety is hugely important. It's down to contextual relevancy and making sure that your message matters, is your message being delivered at the right time in the right place to the right customer, right? It's still that wonderful fundamental philosophy of advertising and why it works. So it really is important. The other half of this is the cost control, the cost accountability side of it all. Certainly, companies, I'm sure, all advertisers, but certainly in the retail space, we are all feeling cost pressures, and every dollar matters. So we've got to make sure that every single ad dollar counts. And then it's sort of full circle back to the first question around, getting to the right consumer and making sure that message really, really, truly matters to them, and you're not being lost by a bot or being lost in content that isn't relevant to your message. So it's hugely important.
And I would say from a kind of using a third party, so that to Woody's point, like Mode, IAS, I remember when viewability first came out, every single publisher said, oh, I can just give you the lists, I can give you the filters, we're 100% viewable, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's shifted over the last 2 or 3 years. Like, it's de facto standard. Like, I would say most of the agency people here, they have something that says viewability and you're going to include it. So it's shifting that way, and hopefully that's going to stop some of the fraud. And I think to your point around retargeting, some people will still buy it, so there'll still be a market for it because they're not using the best practices. But I think the puck's going to move. I think, great example is with all the third-party data that we see from the ad exchanges, because we've got a lot of partners where we actually validate the accuracy of the location data. So just like viewability matters from a conversion rate perspective, the accuracy of the location matters from a conversion rate perspective. And what we found was 97% of latitude and longitudes that come in from the ad exchanges are further than 12 football fields away. So that's how much fraud there is right now. But people are doing the fraud because they're actually getting 4 times the CPM when you have a latitude and longitude tied with it. So it's going to move. It's going to move from like, hey, we've got the viewability, we've got the brand safety. It's going to move that puck somewhere else where someone's going to try to kind of game the system.
Yeah. So thank you very much, panelists. I'll go back to you, your names there. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.